Welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that breaks down the 1987 action sci-fi classic Predator 1 minute at a time. I'm John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And today we're talking minute 40 of Predator. You might call minute 40 the Sean Kemp of minutes.
Yes. Now
the Rain Man!
The Rain Man!
Kemp's got it right up into the alley. Power slam! Tomahawk slam! Yeah, baby! Into Lister's face. Woo! The Rain Man!
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I've talked about this before. I was a huge Sonics fan in the mid-90s.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton, Kemp, Detlef Schrempf, Dave Ellis.
Hi, I'm Dave Ellis.
Like those years. Those were the best, man.
Dale Ellis?
Is that what I say, Dave?
Hi, I'm Dave Ellis.
Dave.
Oh, damn it. The Jameson is kicking it already. Dale Ellis.
Dale Jameson.
Jameson Ellis?
Oh, yeah. Sam Perkins, Big Smooth.
Fuck yeah, Sam Perkins.
Yeah.
Dude, like, he'd shoot those sleepy three-pointers.
Yeah.
That was the best.
Yeah, he didn't even jump. That was wonderful. I love that. And he's
There-
a lefty. It's so much. He's like a little unicorn of his time. You know?
Yeah, there was no reason why he should have been as good as he was.
Yeah.
He looked like he was stoned all the time. For a while, he might, the Sonics are no longer. I think he might hold the record for the most three-pointers in a Sonics game.
Oh, Sam Perkins, huh?
I feel like I saw that happen live. I could be completely wrong, but I think he sunk like 8 three-pointers
Oh,
in a game, which
nice.
I should look that up.
Well, Ray Allen eventually played for the Sonics for a few years, so that might have
He might have
been
broken it.
eclipsed by him. Yeah, by
Yeah.
Jesus.
Jeez, that's right. Jesus.
Jesus Shuttleworth. But we missed, so we were talking off air, but we missed our perfect opportunity on minute 38 because minute 38 was worn by a Seattle Seahawks fullback for many years named Mac Strong.
Back strong.
So I'm going to have to do like a lame makeup here and say number 40 was also worn in the NFL by a defensive back for St. Louis and San Diego back in the 90s, and his name was Cedric Mack.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So all those diehard St. Louis and San Diego
There's like
football fans.
one guy that has a Cedric Mack jersey that just got
Mack.
really excited. That's great. Oh, man. Eric, shout out again to a friend of the show, Eric Deutsch, pointed that out on our Facebook group.
You set us up. It's all bullshit.
That was a miss. But people around the country probably don't know who Max Strong is, but he is a beloved figure in Seahawks history. Wasn't quite a superstar, but he was very good at his fullback position and was also a pretty upstanding member of the community, doing lots of charitable work. He was just a pretty great all-around guy.
Yeah. Is he an analyst now for the Seahawks?
Oh,
I feel like he still hangs around and does analyst things.
Once as a kid, he literally ran into a brick wall. In junior high, he was voted most likely to succeed. Nowadays, he enjoys watching SpongeBob with his son. And his teammates say he'll laugh at anything. But it's no laughing matter when he's headed for the end zone. He's Max Strong, fullback for the Seattle Seahawks.
maybe. I don't
Okay.
know. I'd have to look that up. But if he is, now I'm going to find him on Twitter and just start adding him and yelling Mac.
Mac!
Mac!
Let's see. Some other notable number 40s off the top of my head. There's Bartolo Colon, longtime overweight pitcher in in baseball. Played for many teams, notably the Mets, where I think he hit his first career home run a couple of years ago, and his teammates just made a huge deal of it and totally ran out of the – well, no, they hid, I think, in the clubhouse. So when he came back to the dugout, they're all gone, and then they came out and congratulated him later. That was
Oh, that's awesome.
a fun little baseball moment. Yeah.
You don't see a lot of fat pitchers.
No,
No.
they just don't typically hang around. But he's someone who's stuck around for a really, really long time. Good for him.
That reminds me, you can cut this from the show if you want, but I was watching a college football game one time. It was with some buddies, and we were up at a cabin. It was having like a boys' weekend or whatever. And it was this kind of smaller, like mid-tier college football game. One of the teams went to kick a field goal, and the fattest kicker I've ever seen ran out on the field. And one of my buddies goes, "You guys, get over here. It's a fat kicker." And then every time it was time for them to kick, someone would yell, "Hey, the fat kicker's back." And we'd all run into the room to watch the fat kicker.
Oh, man.
Don't know who he is or what team he played for, but shout out to any fat kickers out there.
Kicking your weight. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. The only other number 40 who I found intriguing was Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch.
Waterfield drops back to pass. It's that screen pass again to Hirsch, and Mr. Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch is touchdown bound.
Oh.
Yeah. From also the St. Louis Rams football organization, but he's from way back when, I think in the 50s, and he's now a Pro Football Hall of Famer.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, he's one of these, I don't know, like he was kind of like the Marshall Faulk or who's another like double threat from the backfield who, catches and who rushes a lot.
Oh, yeah. Like catches balls out of the backfield.
Yeah, but like a ton of them. Like
yeah, like
the league leader.
Like who's the guy on the Patriots that does that a lot?
I don't know.
Dion Lewis.
Yeah, sure. We'll go Dion Lewis.
Yeah, he catches a lot of balls out of the backfield.
He does. So he was kind of like a prototype many years ago, and yeah, he was someone I stumbled across looking for number 40 sports figures. And
I think if you have the nickname Crazy Legs,
yeah,
you've made it.
Yeah.
It's
funny because Crazy Legs, I saw it right away because Crazy Legs is also the nickname I give myself during our Turkey Bowl every year that I schedule.
Nice.
Where we meet with family and friends to play some football in Merrimore Park in Redmond.
Nice.
Yeah.
Crazy Legs Zabriskie.
Crazy Legs Zabriskie, that's me. So
well done.
Yeah, I found my name mate here at number 40. But anyway,
should we talk about Predator?
Yeah, we should talk about Predator. Minute 40 of Predator opens with Dutch leaving Max side to check on Billy. It ends with Billy and Dutch staring into the jungle. Dun, dun. Very exciting. So what are we seeing here first?
All right. So first off, we've got Dutch and Max standing there. We've got
Mac.
We've got Anna with Dylan hanging out in the trees, and the camera just kind of gives us a shot of both of them, and then we get Dutch stepping over the log here, and he's slowly making his way over towards Billy, who's just kind of staring off into the jungle.
Mm-hmm. And before Dutch approaches Billy, we see Anna really subtly clutching a stick or a log somewhere, like one of those sticks that's in between a stick and a log. Like it could do some damage if she chose it. A slog. A slog. She grabs a slog really slyly, though. Like she doesn't want anybody to see that she's grabbing this slog with her bound hands.
Yeah, and you mentioned this was a little bit of foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing because she doesn't hit Dylan with it. She hits Ponchito later on with it, essentially starting us off on the horror thriller slasher aspect of this movie. And it's also foreshadowing because Ponchito later on is totally crushed by their own log trap that they set for the Predator.
That's right. A lot of log damage.
Yeah. Not everybody likes a log. Like. Did you ever see Did you ever watch Ren and Stimpy back in its heyday?
Just gonna ask you. Yeah, is that a Ren and Stimpy reference?
Log. Everyone wants a log.
What rolls fast stairs, the motor and pairs, rolls over your neighbor's dog. What's great for a snack and fits on your back? It's log.
Oh, that's a good one.
There's a random drop that will.
Yeah. That was a family favorite for a while.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's really like subtle. They just show her barely grabbing that there, and kind of foreshadowing things to come. And then as Dutch steps across this log, we get some of the score. You mentioned the score here is a little flashback to some score we heard earlier in the movie.
Yeah, this is the exact same track. Played while the team is approaching Juan Valdez, the lookouts.
Juan Valdez.
Juan Valdez.
Juan Valdez.
Specifically when Blaine and Mac are approaching quietly and Blaine reaches and the tripwire comes into focus via rack focus. It's the exact same high strings followed by some low horns.
Just
And,
a da-na-na-na.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, evens out with the horns. But it's the exact same track. Listen to these minutes back to back. I can't help but notice it's the exact same score. And I'm curious, why do you think they're using the same exact, musical notes here?
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of builds a little suspense in this scene, right?
Right.
Because they're walking out into this big clearing in the jungle,
Yeah.
which feels dangerous.
Yes.
Right? Like they've been
Mhm.
kind of under the cover of the trees and the canopy. And as Arnold walks, as Dutch is walking out towards Billy, the camera pulls back and you realize that they're standing in this very wide open, kind of exposed clearing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the score just kind of punctuates the fact that we're supposed to be fact. We're supposed to be feeling some tension here. Feel like we might be in a little bit of danger, just like when Blaine came up on the tripwire and was almost in a little bit of danger there.
Yeah.
And so it's really setting the scene. This whole scene is a little unnerving, right? I mean, Billy is just staring steadfastly, stoically out into the jungle as Dylan approaches him, as Dutch approaches him.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I made a note in my notes that this is terrible strategy here because you're
Right.
One of the main things that they talked about when they're leaving the destroyed guerrilla camp was the fact that they could see all these other guerrilla forces closing in on their position. And if the whole point of taking this route is to stay out of enemy eyes, they're doing terrible by going into the open. You would never do that if your strategy is to avoid the enemy. You stay away from clearings. You stay away from trails and streams and roads. You stay covered.
And I think Dutch realizes that here. That's why he's walking out there so slowly.
Mm-hmm.
He has his gun drawn. His bicep is like fully flexed. This is another very like double dragon pose.
Yeah. Another hero shot right here for the biceps.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another hero shot. Like, again, could kind of be like a trading card picture for this movie.
Arnold's right gun.
Right. And so he's really just inching out there. And as he approaches Billy, he kind of turns his body towards where Billy is staring very slowly. And they both kind of stare off into the jungle before they start their short conversation here.
Do you want to do a little dramatic line reading of their short conversation here?
Ooh, yeah, we should. Okay. Who's who? You want to be Arnold?
Sure, I'll be Dutch.
Okay. And I will be Billy.
What is it? Billy. What the hell is wrong with you?
There's something in those trees.
Nice.
Scene.
And scene.
That's a short.
A little short yet dramatic line reading.
I like your thump there. That was really good.
That was me grabbing your collar.
Right, yeah.
Clearly.
He does. He grabs his collar and he's like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, and Billy has a good double act here where he has to snap out of it for a second, and in his snapping out, he has this total psycho look in his eyes at first.
Dude,
he's looking at Dutch like, oh, wow, this is like maybe what the real-life crazy Sonny Landham might look like at times. That's why they had the bodyguard to protect him from other people, or protect other people from him.
Right. He does. His eyes are like wide open, and his mouth like doesn't move, and he just stares Arnold down right when he snaps his head real fast, like he was almost in a daydream for a minute.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he must be doing, because he slowly comes out of the daydream-like state and his eyes kind of take on the same shape and size, because when he looks at Arnold, he has this like look like he's eyeing Arnold all of a sudden, but then he relaxes and he looks back toward the jungle and gives his line about there's something in those trees, like, maybe being watched is what he's trying to tell Arnold here.
Yeah. And once again, we're hoping to see something out in those trees, aren't we?
Yeah.
And we don't get it.
Yeah. So once again, we're let down. And I like your point last minute about they spend so much on their technology, on their special effects for the movie, that if there was something to see, they would make it more obvious, which is it's logical, but it's also kind of a letdown, making you realize, oh, like it's too bad they couldn't just sneak in a little shimmer just for those people for rewatchability. But maybe they weren't thinking that this is a movie that you're going to watch multiple times or minute at a time for little shimmers and glimmers.
And, we're only, in the scope of the movie, we're only 40 minutes in. So they're still really building the suspense. The only image of the Predator we've seen is his hand in the Predator vision. So, they're still building up to it for kind of the great reveal. Yeah. And I always really did like that the Predator has this ability to kind of have this see-through camo. I've always thought it was such a cool part of his character. So I can't wait till we can get to that and talk about that a little bit more.
Oh yeah. I remember as a kid seeing that, just thinking, how did they do that? This is the craziest special effects. Like, was someone really invisible in the jungle looking like this? Because in the 80s and early 90s, that's you're thinking, oh, what's on screen is what is happening. There's if it's not obviously hand drawn, then it must be real. So you're looking for those moments of hyper realism where you just can't believe your eyes, and that was definitely a moment like that.
Yeah, absolutely. What was when you were, there's a little tangent here.
Yeah.
What was when you were growing up, like, was there a movie you watched that the special effects in that movie like blew you away the first time you saw it, like in the 80s or 90s?
That's a really good question. Do you have one in your mind right now that give me the chance to think?
Yeah. No, the one that always sticks in my mind, which is probably a pretty obvious one, but it's just what it is. It was Terminator 2.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Because Terminator, you know what I mean? Terminator 2 was one of the first to really utilize CG well. And it's also nostalgic for me in the fact that it was the first R-rated movie I ever saw in a theater. So yeah, when I saw that, I remember I was sitting in like the fourth row of the theater, and it was packed. And I was with 2 or 3 friends of mine and one of their dads. And I just was in awe of that movie. Like, every time they did CG effects with the T-1000, my mind was blown.
Yeah.
We had never seen anything like that before on screen. Like,
yeah. Really. One that comes to mind from the 80s is Willow. It was
oh yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that one?
Oh, I fucking love Willow.
It had just all sorts of
fanboy.
Willow, all right. Willow, the goat lady.
I know about Madmartigan. I know about Daikini babies.
I don't really know. I just remember all the cool magic moments, like the two-headed dragon and the brownies. Those are the little people, right? The little tiny miniature people, and the metamorphosing that was happening. All those kind of special effects, which George Lucas had a big hand in I think he was the executive producer and creator of that universe.
I'm still haunted by the transforming into the pigs.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, transforming stuff. That stuff is, I don't care what movie it is. It could be that. It could be The Fly. But just transforming overall is, if you think about it too much, it's really gross. And then if you see it done really well, it's really gross.
Yeah, like early 80s werewolf movies. There's 2 that jump out: The Howling and American Werewolf in London. Both have transformation scenes that were way ahead of their time, special effects wise. And like, when you watch them, you hurt for that person.
Right.
Like, it looks so painful. Yeah.
and it always turns scary because the person, especially if they're the kind of transformer where they have no control once they're a werewolf, they basically Hulk out, then they're like yelling at people to get away from them and lock them up because they're going to be dangerous. I remember I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was The Howling I'm thinking of, where they're yelling at someone to run away because they're turning into the wolf. That's like, it's so scary. And then they're transforming this process that's just going to happen. It's inevitable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good special effect talk. A little bit ahead of our time. Look at us. We're not even there yet, but we can't wait. Couldn't wait.
It's those are the types of movies though that like really kind of sealed my movie love, is like when you have that moment where you're just like amazed by what you're seeing on the screen.
Yeah.
Those things always just stick in your mind as like transformative moments in your own movie watching.
Yeah. And then when you grow up, you really want to know how they did it and everything. And kind of what we're doing here with this movie, which is great. But a little bit of the maybe not so special effect magic, but speaking of Billy here, he's definitely representing a big time TV trope and movie trope of this magical native, and sometimes a TV trope might call it a badass native, depending on the attitude. And Billy fits both these tropes of someone who has maybe more of a spiritual connection or more of a extrasensory perception than other people around him.
Yeah. Like, you're right. You brought this up, or you put this down in your notes, and I hadn't really thought about it before, but right, he is kind of playing that caricature of the native or whatnot that has some extrasensory perception here, or sees more than the others around him. Yeah,
and has maybe more of a connection to nature, is paying extra special attention. And with that, I can't help but just kind of question the dialogue between Mac and Dutch earlier, and Dutch right here, wondering what the hell is wrong with Billy. If he's with them as part of the team, shouldn't they be used to this kind of behavior now? And why isn't he being more, I would say, gentle with Billy here? Like what is it this time? Like what is your spidey sense telling you?
Right. Well, maybe this is the most dramatic he's ever been. And so that's what's kind of putting Dutch on edge, is he's never quite seen Billy this way before.
Right.
That's the only thing I can think of, because he does keep on having these moments where he, pulls away from the group, stares off into the jungle, and people around him have to kind of snap him back to it, or he has to snap himself back in. Like a couple minutes ago, he was standing there in the clearing of the camp and just staring up into the jungle, and finally had to kind of snap out of it and run off. Yeah, maybe this is the most dramatic he's ever been.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if he's being this dramatic, then the rest of the team should be on alert, should be on notice.
Yeah.
Being careful and taking extra special precautions. But if you look at the next minute, he does give one of those kind of it's really nothing. So it bums me out, his Billy's choice here of not, I guess, keying more into telling what he's feeling to the team, because clearly he's feeling something, and that something, like you're saying, could be fear, could be an extra special, extrasensory moment or experience. And it's curious to me why he's not telling the rest of the team that, but we can save that for 41, because there's a whole trope hole we can go down there too. Right. I wrote down some other examples of this trope of the badass or magical native, just from anything from cartoons to live action movies. Did any of those examples stand out to you that I wrote down?
Let's see. The ones that there's several on here that I'm not real familiar with.
Sure.
But some of the ones that I recognized was you said, there was a character in Dances with Wolves, which is a movie I like. You said the character from Power Rangers.
Yeah, I was reading about that. I was kind of diving down there because it showed up on the TV tropes examples, and then it said something like he didn't come to be this magical native character until season 3 or something like that. So it's like they had this planned for him all along. Okay.
Let's see. You had there's a character in Last of the Mohicans. I like Thunderhawk from Street Fighter.
Yeah, there's like the triple threat there. You have the Thunderhawk or T-Hawk from Street Fighter. You have Nightwolf from Mortal Kombat, and you have Chief Thunder from Killer Instinct. There's a theme here in the names.
Right. Yeah.
I'm seeing names like James Proudstar, Wind in His Hair, Chakotay, Thunderhawk, Vulcan Raven, Chief Scalpum from Sunset Riders.
Oh no!
Yikes! Yeah,
we're spilling over into racist caricatures.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what happens with this kind of thing.
Yeah, but a lot of these I recognize the TV show, or the movie, but I don't remember the character, to be honest. Yeah. Although I like how you have a reference to Children of the Corn too.
Yeah, Frank Red Bear.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I've never seen that one.
Yeah, I might have seen that one many years ago.
Many moons ago.
Many moons. All right. Hey. Let's see. I'd say the last one that really stood out to me as an example was the character Brave Star from the show Brave Star. That was kind of like a space cowboy man with Native American ties named Brave Star, and then I don't remember, but he and his sidekick, who is a horse, at one point do the Predator handshake in their show, where it's the
No way.
two big bulging biceps just wrestling basically in the air. Like, what in the world is happening to kids' 80s cartoons? I believe that came out in 87 as well, so they were able to slide that reference in for all the kids who
I was
love Predator.
unfamiliar with that one. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. Good list, though. Pretty good.
Thanks.
Did you notice after their conversation, he gives Dutch that really intense stare, but then as soon as he turns back towards the jungle, did you notice both characters kind of relax a little bit?
Yeah.
And then that's when he kind of says, there's something in those trees.
Yeah, something in those trees.
Yeah, and it's almost like kind of a resignation, like him kind of saying, I'm done wondering if there's something in those trees, but I just now know there's something in those trees, and it's not going to end well for us.
Wow.
I kind of sense that in his voice.
Wow, that's a good catch. Maybe this early he's such a badass mystical figure that he just knows their fate already. Like, they've already rolled snake eyes, and they just don't know it.
I just get the sense that he is not giving up, but kind of realizing that what he's been fearing all along is actually true, and he's finally admitted it to himself.
Yeah, because this isn't his first go around with sensing the Predator. We saw him sense the Predator right when he was the last one to leave the guerrilla camp.
Right.
He did the whole pause as he was about to jog out of the camp, and he looks back, and then the camera back. Then as the camera pans up to where the Predator will ultimately be in that scene, Billy runs out. So maybe he's been sensing this all along, kind of like Gandalf in Fellowship of the Ring. He always knows that Gollum is tailing them. Even though Gollum doesn't show up for a whole another movie, Gandalf in the Mines of Moria is speaking to Frodo, telling him that all this time Gollum has been tailing them. And then you catch a little glimpse of Gollum.
There's something down there.
It's Gollum.
Gollum.
He's been following us for 3 days.
But again, Gollum doesn't really come into play as a major figure until the second movie.
Right.
But it's one of those things where we're being watched. I have this sense about it. I wrote down some other examples of this. If any of these came to mind, or if any came to mind other than the ones I had listed, feel free to spill away when you've seen this in another movie or show or something.
Sure. Yeah. What else you got?
The one that came to mind without me having to look at the TV tropes was when Luke and R2 are on Dagobah, and they're kind of messing around, and Luke's talking to R2, and then he's trying to describe to R2 like the feeling. He says something like, feels like...
Be like what?
And then Luke points the blaster at him. He says, like, we're being watched. So that's the one that always pops in my head. And people's explanation for that one is that Luke is force sensitive, clearly, so maybe he could sense that using the force. I also wrote down Muldoon. He's the ranger, like the park ranger in Jurassic Park, who...
Oh, yeah.
He knows that the raptor is out there watching him, and then he puts the raptor in his target, or in his not his iron sights, in his scope. And then as soon as he does that, the other raptor is right next to him, basically in his grill. And
Clever girl.
Great line,
yeah. She takes him down. Oh, I love that clever girl line. And
that's a classic.
Yeah. And then I think what really stands out, just anytime someone uses their spidey sense in the Spider-Man movies, it's always that same sense of danger before danger strikes, or when danger's around, sort of something bad's about to shake down.
I'm sorry, I'm racking my brain. I can't think of one up on the spot.
Okay, not a problem.
You can cut me out, right?
Well, have you ever had that feeling in your own life? Have you ever had that feeling like you're being watched? Like, what does that feel like? Or do you have an example where you just knew you were being watched?
Do you ever get the sense, like, this has happened to me, like when I'm teaching sometimes, you know, when like you're teaching, you're up in front of a group doing a presentation or something, and things are going really well, and you just feel like the audience is, or whoever's listening to you is engaged with what you're saying, and like there's somewhat of a give and take there. But then there's also times when you feel like what you're doing is not working.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, whenever that happens to me, I sometimes get this weird out of body experience where like I feel like I'm watching myself talk or watching myself teaching, and I'm like, oh, you're tanking right now.
Oh.
I imagine it's like the same feeling that like a stand-up comedian gets when they're bombing. You
Right,
know?
right.
That's a little bit out of a box answer, but it's the first thing that came to my mind because it's something that happens to me sometimes. And it's when I get that feeling is when I know that my lesson is not good or like my explanation is not good or I've just lost my students. And whenever I'm trying to teach them is when I get that slight out of body experience where I feel like I'm being watched and it's myself that's watching me.
Yeah, totally. We have that profession, that rare profession where we can catch ourselves not performing well, and it's in front of a large group, and we all know what's happening. We all know it's what's.
That's the thing. We don't get to make mistakes privately.
No, it's made pretty publicly. Thankfully, since I teach the same thing 5 times a day, I'm able to fix it pretty well for the second and third and fourth and fifth times around.
Don't you feel like your first period gets like the worst lesson? And
yeah.
It's maybe not I was going to say the last period gets the best, but it's probably not the last. It's probably more like the third or fourth when you've really kind of hit your stride. You still have your energy.
It's definitely like the third is when I have my best energy and I know exactly what I'm doing because the fourth time I'm kind of wiped from doing it, and the fifth time I'm just relieved to be finishing this fifth time.
Dude, five of the same thing in a day. That's pretty intense. I don't think I've ever had that in my teaching career. I've always had 2 different classes.
No, this is my first year doing that, and it's nice because you only have the one thing to prep for, but it's tiring, and you have to make sure it's engaging enough for yourself so that you're not feeling bored by the second or third time. So you're like, is this entertaining enough for me to keep my own energy and interest up?
Man, people don't realize like people talk about like I got to give a presentation at work today. And like, I give 5 presentations at work every day.
Every day.
Life of a teacher.
Life of a teacher.
Sorry, I went off on a little tangent again.
Oh, no, not at all. It's very much in the realm of being watched. And then, could you imagine the predators watching you just going, oh my God, this guy's screwed. Like, what was that about? Like, that was way too much think pair sharing. Come on, Mr. Glover.
Oh, I thought of a movie, a horror movie, of course, where...
Oh, what?
Wait, I know, weird. The Evil Dead franchise.
Groovy.
I love the Evil Dead movies, and in particular, the very first Evil Dead is a very low-budget horror movie with some fantastic special effects. But the conceit in that movie is essentially that the woods are haunted by spirits, and the spirits can possess you, essentially. Turn you into what's called a deadite. But before all the carnage begins, the characters have a sense that they're being watched kind of by the woods, kind of by the cabin itself.
Ooh.
And they do a lot of camera work with some sound design to kind of reinforce that. So there you go. I found a movie connection.
Awesome. Oh, that's great.
I love the Evil Dead movies. Oh, man. I could talk about those all day.
We'll have to have someone on from Evil Dead Minute.
Oh, is there an Evil Dead Minute?
I don't know.
Yeah, there probably is.
Probably is. I mean, there's a better chance that there's an Evil Dead Minute than not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's just bank on that. So we'll have Jimmy and Jeffrey on sometime from Evil Dead Minute.
All right, so we've kind of reached the end of the minute. This minute is really it's one sequence. It's Dutch walking out into the clearing and then having their conversation, then they stare off into the woods, and that kind of brings things to a close.
Mm-hmm.
But did you have any other things to add about this minute before we get to recommends?
The script difference really overall is the same scene in the original script, the 1985 script. The big difference is that when they're switching between the team's viewpoint and the predator's viewpoint, you're more, I can't say inside the head of the predator, but you're definitely showing that perspective more and reading more of the body language of the predator in that scene in the script because you're following along with the predator vision And the way the script explains it is that as Billy is sensing exactly where the predator is, the predator has to stop moving and really hold position so that Billy doesn't focus in on him or focus in on it, and give its position away and take aim and start firing. So that's something that we don't see in the movie at all, because I think it's really hard for the movie to show that, because you have the invisibility, but that is not going to be shown until much later, or not much later. It's not going to be shown until a couple minutes later.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat having that in the script where you're switching sides all of a sudden. You're thinking, oh, should I be on the predator side? Should I want the predator to stay hidden and not found out by the team?
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you have anything for the script?
No, I just think that's a cool idea. It's interesting when we find moments in the movie where the film deviates from the script and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of cases, I feel like they made the right decision when we watched the movie. But there's some kind of cool ideas left over in the script that you've brought up.
Yeah, in the movie, I could see it maybe playing a little bit too much for laughs, where Billy looks over and all of a sudden the predator stops, like the little invisible cloak just stops moving.
Right.
And
Yeah,
Billy looks away a little bit and the predator starts moving again.
It's like a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like red light.
Right.
Green light, red light, green light. John McTiernan in his commentary is mentioning how Arnold walking out with his bicep hero shot is looking like cartoon or a comic book character Sergeant Rock, which we see Shane Black reading the comic in the credits at the end. And that
is that a real thing?
It is a real comic book for many, many, many years. And Arnold, the connection to Arnold was that for the longest time, Arnold was tied to star in a film adaptation of Sergeant Rock. And it was going to be produced by Joel Silver, possibly written by either Steven D'Souza or John Milius. And it just has been stuck in production hell for many, many years. And the latest was, I think, 2010. Silver announced the setting change from World War II to another battle in the near future, whatever that means. So there's a strong tie-in on the set of people thinking that they were going to be working on Sergeant Rock, including Arnold and possibly Shane Black and Joel Silver, but that never came to fruition.
Never happened, huh?
No, never happened.
Well, all those Sergeant Rock fans will just have to keep on writing their Sergeant Rock fan fiction.
That's right. They're Arnold / fiction. Yeah.
Well, does that bring us to Weekly Recommends?
That brings us to the Weekly Recommends. So this is where we tell listeners anything interesting we've been watching or listening to or reading, wearing on our feet. Anything else?
Baking in our pizza.
Yeah. How do we bake our pizza? Yeah. What about you, Jeff? What do you have going on for recommends?
Well, I tweeted about this movie a little while back, and I think I tweeted out that I was planning on rewatching it, and I did finally rewatch it last week while my wife was out of town. And that is the great double feature packaged up as one big long film directed by Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, it's the whole package is called Grindhouse, and it features 2 full-length films, Planet Terror and Death Proof. And one of my favorite parts about watching this is all the fake exploitation movie trailers they have in between, including Machete.
I took a vow of peace. And now you want me to help you kill all these men?
Yes, bro. I mean, Padre.
I'll see what I can do.
Machete.
Which eventually was turned into an actual feature film by Robert Rodriguez.
And a sequel.
Machete Kills. Yeah. I love Grindhouse. It's a masterpiece. I'm compelled to rewatch it every year or two. And so this was, I don't know how many times I've watched it, but this was another rewatch for me. And every single time I do, I'm just reminded how much I love it. And I know it's not a film for everybody. It's a movie made for a pretty specific audience, but it's such a special project. It's made by 2 of my favorite directors. And just on this last rewatch, what I was really struck by, I always take away something new when I watch it. And this time I was really struck by the practical special effects in Planet Terror. It's really phenomenal. From the makeup work of the the infected kind of zombie-esque people, to just them driving down the road and running their truck into zombies and having them explode all over the front of the grill of their truck. I know there's some CG there too, of course, but a lot of it is practical. A lot of it is just top-notch work. Probably some of the best practical effects we've seen in the last 2 decades. So anyway, I know it's for those people that love it, it's not it's a movie they've already seen, but if you're perhaps a younger viewer or you've just never watched Grindhouse, I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend watching the whole thing. You can buy Planet Terror and Death Proof separately, but if you can get your hands on the full double feature with the trailers, I feel like that's the best way to experience that movie. So that's
nice.
my recommend. Yeah.
And shout out to Cornetto Minute. We had them on a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
Nick and Scott, for April Fool's Day, they put out an episode breaking down the Don't trailer.
Don't.
Directed by Edgar Wright.
Yes.
Because they're doing the Cornetto trilogy directed by Edgar Wright.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that was a good listen. Don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
Those trailers are so good because they're totally a riff on certain subgenres of horror or exploitation from the 70s and 80s. And there was like a slew of movies made like between 1975 and 85 that had "don't" in the title. It was like, don't go in the house, like don't go outside. So that trailer was totally like a goof on that kind of that run of movies that occurred.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I'll have to look up that podcast. That sounds fun.
I would say my easy recommend, my like softball recommend would be go see Avengers Endgame, because it's a really good capper to all the Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise movies. I think the 22 movies, or that's the 22nd movies, but if you've been watching ever since Iron Man and you've been waiting for that build up, it's here, and it's so far the number 2 worldwide all-time grossing movie behind Avatar.
That's wild, man.
It's wild. It's so wild, and I liked it as the fan of the movies, and that said, I would probably only watch it the one time in the theater, just because the movie itself is 3 hours long, and by the third hour, I was definitely feeling like the weight of the entire cinematic universe, not just the movie itself, but all the storylines it had to close and all the characters it had to see off.
So what do you think they're gonna do now? Like, they're not gonna stop making Marvel movies.
Oh no, they will not stop making Marvel movies.
I mean, will they just continue making like individual movies for the characters, or like, do you think they're gonna start with? I'm not as an expert on the Marvel universe. There's a lot that I haven't seen, so excuse my ignorance right now. I've heard a lot of people say, because I haven't seen Endgame, but I heard a lot of people say that it closes a lot of storylines and ends a lot of the movie series. So I'm just curious what you think they're going to do next, or what can they do next?
What I've heard a lot of people say as their own educated guesses is that, yeah, they'll keep doing the individual standalone movies, but at the same time they'll use newer characters or younger characters to build a new Avengers team.
Spin-off, yeah.
Well, no, not even a spin-off. They'll just build a new Avengers, and so then you'll have more movies with Avengers in the title, and those people have changed, because in the comic series itself, the Avengers are always changing, right? Their members, and there'd be, this new group of 5, or all of a sudden like a huge crossover event where you have 40 or 50 different characters, much like Infinity War and Endgame. You'd have just dozens of characters who are considered Avengers. It's a wide-ranging group, so I think that membership is just going to shift to focus on a different team of Avengers as time goes on. I don't think they'll stop by any means.
All right, well, only time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell, and they're making lots of money. So
that was your easy recommend. Do you have a different recommend as well?
Yeah. I was watching on Netflix this Viking show. It's not called Vikings. It's called Norsemen. I think it has a different name in Norwegian, I want to say. I don't know if it's Norwegian or Swedish or Finnish, but it's meant to be the Viking times of about 1000 AD. And what I like about it is it's meant to evoke some Game of Thrones feelings. I never watched Game of Thrones, so I don't really know anything about it, but I can tell that is what it's trying to pull from, but at the same time, it uses a lot of dry humor, like this. It has this great sense of modernism to it, where people are questioning all the time, like, why are we doing this? And they're making allusions to modern, like, things that modern people do.
The helmet is a basic head cover, right?
Yeah.
But when you add some other material, like horns, it becomes something else. It's no longer just a helmet. It is something bigger, it tells a story, and that is what fashion is all about.
Like being more open thinkers, or doing things for the art versus just like the pillaging. So it's a fun show to kind of have on in the background. And then I made the mistake of doing that, and then eventually I did the thing where I couldn't help but just like focus on the show itself, because it was starting to tell a fun story that was more investing for the viewer after a while.
Kind of sucks you in.
Yeah, it definitely sucks you in effectively, but I really like the humor that runs throughout. I can't do a super serious show really that often, because it just sucks all out of me. I need to have that give back of some humor now and again, and its sensibilities is what makes it, I don't know, a fun watch.
So that's just called Vikings?
No, it's called Norsemen.
Oh, Norsemen. Oh, sorry.
I think there is a show called Vikings, but I think that's more of I think that's much more of like the serious, grimdark kind of show.
Yeah. I think what I take away from that recommend is that you've never watched Game of Thrones.
No, but I've definitely seen it blow up on the social media the last month or so as they're winding down their episodes and winding down the whole series, and it's really easy to glean, like, oh, here's what's happening. Like, they're not like, people are not putting up spoiler walls. It's like, oh, this just happened, can you believe it? So I can't help but see what's going on and follow like the big plot points.
Yeah, if you're a watcher, you have to watch it right away so you don't get it spoiled.
Are you a Game of Thrones head?
Oh yes, I am.
Right.
I've seen all the episodes twice.
Ooh.
Except for this newest season. So yeah, I'm excited for the final episode. A lot of people have been complaining about this and that, and to me that feels a little bit like people complaining about the new Star Wars movies. Like,
yeah,
it's just, let the writers do their thing and enjoy the ride and don't take it so seriously.
Yeah,
it's really good and really fun. So
I saw people signing a petition online to remake season 8. Oh, it's ridiculous.
People are entitled children. Like, shut the hell up. Like, it's a show. The people who make the show will make it how they want. Either like it or don't. Like, you don't get it remade, you baby.
Yeah.
God.
No, it's the same thing like Last Jedi went through, and
yeah,
other things that I'm a fan of that I just want to say, like, just if you don't like it, just you can consume any manner of other media. Just right. Leave it alone for the people who want it. Like, don't just troll and bash on it and hate on it. Just move on. Life's too short for that. Just find something you do enjoy. Or unless that's what you enjoy, is trolling and bashing.
I think unfortunately that is true.
I think I know enough middle schoolers to know that's true for a lot of people.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah, I think that's it for recommends. So, Jeff, where can people find you in the internets?
I'm on the Twitter. You can find me at capital K Carl _ capital H Hungus 314.
My name is Carl H. Bin Expert.
Jeff Glover. I'm on Twitter. Follow me there.
And if you've ever felt that sense that someone's watching you, like right now, as you drive your car, or you're at work, or whenever else you're listening to this podcast, then write into the show, predatorminute@gmail.com, or drop us a line at the Predator Minute Listeners Palapa on Facebook, or let us know on Twitter at Predator Minute. And it's been a while since I did this, but I want to give a shout out to our musical contributors. We have Chaos Ware, who granted us permission to use his electric guitar cover of the Predator theme for our intro and outro music, and also Smooth McGroove, who provides the video game vocals, the a cappella covers of video game songs that'll play in the background here and again. So thanks, Smooth and Chaosware.
Smooth McGroove. Great name.
Great name. And we are part of a larger network of podcasts, the Movies by Minutes podcast. There are currently 127 Movies by Minute podcasts. The people who kick this whole movement off are the Star Wars Minute hosts, Alex Robinson and Pete the Retailer. They just finished off, or they're just finishing off right now, The Force Awakens Minute, and they're about to go into hiatus for next 6 or so months until they start the next Star Wars Minute by Minute, which would be Rogue One. I think that's all of our covers, and so for Predator Minute, I'm John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And until next time,
stick around. What got Billy so spooked?